Welcome back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at a few bits and bobs. Today, we'll have a look at Central England temperature for January, see where we're standing at the start of February. Also have a look at the stratosphere and some general charts as well. Now, before I get on with the video, just talk about the advertising. There's video ads on all my pages at gazworthbiz.com. If you hit play on the video ad, you'll be supporting gazworthbiz.com. Thanks very much for doing that. You don't necessarily have to sit and watch the whole thing all the way through, but if you press play on the ad and watch as much of the ad as you want, you will be supporting Gazworthies. Thanks so much for doing that. It allows me to have the website, essentially, to pay for the website, so it allows me to sit here and talk to you via the website. So it is important that you do these things for the website. I know that you do it. Thanks so much for doing that. And just hit play and see what the ad's all about. So I'm going to start off with the Central England temperature for January from Hadley, see where we finished up. We actually finished up with a Central England temperature in January of 5.7 Celsius. So it was a very mild January. It wasn't the mildest on record, nowhere near, about 7.5 set in 1916, but it was an anomaly of 1.9 degrees above average, so a very, very mild month. Also a very wet month, of course, probably still waiting for all the statistics to come in, but probably the wettest on record, and the records go back to around, I think, 1750, something like that. So the wettest for a very long time, beating the previous records, which were set in 1948 and probably 1914, I think. So very wet month, very mild month, 5.7, an anomaly of 1.9 degrees above average. Just the mildest since 2008, so it wasn't particularly spectacular in terms of breaking records or anything like that. It wasn't record-breaking January, but it was a very mild month. February, the first day, has started off with a Central England temperature provisional. This will change at the end of the month probably, but provisional of 4.6 degrees, which is an anomaly of just 0.4 of a degree above average. So a cooler start to February compared to January. The temperature did come down a little bit, but I think we're going to see a very mild month, or quite a mild month coming up again, to be honest, because it looks so the Atlantic is going to be really quite dominant for February, certainly the first half of February anyway. Now, the current stratospheric temperature has come up nearer to normal. The grey line here is where the temperature should be in the stratosphere over the North Pole at this time of the year. Beginning to move upwards now, of course. We've left the coldest part of winter behind in terms of the stratosphere. And generally it's an upward trend now through towards the summer of the stratosphere over the North Pole. Of course, we got very, very cold around the end of 2013. Around the end of the year, almost a record-breakingly cold stratosphere at that point. The black line showing that the stratospheric temperature has come up a little bit through January. It's gone up back towards where we should be, but it's still generally on the cold side, even now, of average. We're still just about under that grey line, so it's still a little bit colder than we should be, but we're certainly nowhere near as cold in terms of those stratospheric temperatures as we were at the end of 2013. But no doubt that very cold stratosphere that we had at the end of 2013 has played its part in what has occurred through January. It's no doubt has impacted to some degree in terms of the strong westerly winds and the very, very sort of zonal setup that we've had with areas of low pressure bringing copious amounts of rain across the country. Not a classic zonal setup, because it's been wetter in the south compared to the north. In a classic zonal westerly in winter, it'll tend to be wetter in the north and perhaps a little bit drier in the south and southeast. That's not been the case. The jet stream has been a little bit further south than you would expect in a typical zonal setup, but it's been a very westerly month with those deep areas of low pressure. Now, we are going to get a bit of stratospheric warming coming up over the next week or so. This is where we start on the 6th of February, so on Thursday. You're going to notice as we run through these charts, and this is from the website Meteosil, that we do get quite a big warming taking place across Greenland through the latter part of next week. Those red colours very quickly appear. That is quite a significant warming taking place over Greenland, and it's not a sudden stratospheric warming. It doesn't quite reach the threshold of that in terms of the temperature increase, and it doesn't, importantly, it doesn't reverse the zonal winds. We don't see the zonal winds shifting from westerly to easterly. That's important because it looks like this warming is probably not going to propagate down from the stratosphere into the troposphere, and of course, to impact the weather over the North Pole, the warming has to propagate down from the stratosphere, which is the very top of the atmosphere, has to propagate down from there into the troposphere, and that's where weather is taking place lower down. If it does propagate down, then it can start to set up blocking. If this was propagating down properly, then I think we would see a pretty good signal there for northern blocking, but it doesn't look as though it's going to, so we're probably not going to see much of an impact from this stratospheric warming, to be honest. It probably isn't going to set up northern blocking and break us out of this westerly unsettled pattern that we're in. That's probably because we're in a westerly QBO, quasi-biennial oscillation. That westerly phase of the QBO takes a lot to break out of it, and I think we would need to see the warming really propagate down through the troposphere before we could start to break out of that westerly phase of the QBO and start to set up some northern block. But it's interesting, we'll keep an eye on it. These are all forecast predictions, so things could change. It is quite a significant warming, not a sudden stratospheric warming, but quite significant, and we do need to see just what impact it has in 2 or 3 weeks' time. Now, the GFS temperature ensembles and rainfall ensembles show that we're going to be around the average for the next week or so. Here's the red line here, that's where we should be this time of year. We're going to be around average, or maybe on some occasions a little bit below average, so probably no great increase in the central England temperature over the next week. We're probably going to stick around the average, but there's still that trend once we get through to around the 11th, 12th of February. There's still that trend to start to pick up the temperature ensembles, lift them up a little bit, so probably turning a bit milder through the second week of the month. Actually, the suggestion is that once we get towards Valentine's Day, around the 14th, 15th, it could turn very mild for a time well above the red line. Whether it's mild or average or cool, we're going to be seeing a lot of rainfall coming up, though. Loads of precipitation spikes once again. We've actually got a little bit of a drier phase that we're in just at the moment. The precipitation spikes don't really come back until the 5th of February, so when's that? That is around the 5th of February, will be around Wednesday. So it's around Wednesday, but rainfall starts to come back with a very intense area of low pressure. But once it comes back, the suggestion is that it's going to come back with a vengeance. Lots of precipitation spikes there. Really could be a very wet phase from around the 5th to, let's say, the 13th of February. And then as those temperatures pick up a little bit, it could turn a little bit drier, so maybe some sort of build of pressure starting to take place from the south, but that's very speculative. Now here's Wednesday's storm, another very deep area of low pressure around 955 millibars, I think, really deep area of low pressure there across Ireland, bringing more gales and heavy rain across the country on Wednesday. Going to be a very wet, unpleasant day, Tuesday night into Wednesday. Do have to watch out for this because there's going to be potential for more flooding, both from the rainfall and from the strong winds battering the coastal fringes with those huge waves that we've been seeing on and off all winter. Yeah, I think could see more coastal flooding around the southern and western coast indeed. They've suffered a lot this winter, and they're going to suffer more, I think, this week. Very nasty day on Wednesday. Then as we move beyond that, we've got to look at this little area of low pressure developing to the south. Now yesterday I was saying that could threaten some heavy rain Thursday into Friday across southern areas and possibly some snow through Wales and the Midlands. It looks as though this area of low pressure is now going to run to the south of the country. So there we are at 6 o'clock in the evening on Thursday. That low pressure is just slipping to the south, maybe clipping into Kent and East Anglia, bringing a little bit of rain, possibly sleet there. But I think overall that low pressure is looking like running to the south. But it's a close run thing, we'll have to keep an eye on it. If it comes northwards, it is coming into quite cold air, so significant rain would be a certainty. Possibly something a little bit more wind chill over the high ground of Wales and the Midlands as well. But on the current evidence this morning, it looks as though that low pressure is going to slip just to the south and the southeast of the country. But then we're opening the doors to that westerly again. There's another area of low pressure waiting in the Atlantic for Friday and into Saturday. This is chart 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Another really nasty low pressure sweeping in, bringing copious amounts of rain, tight backed ice baths, so more gales, coastal flooding, huge waves, again very probable. Going out to day 10, which is Sunday the 9th of February, a week's time, we're still in a very unsettled pattern here. Low pressure to the east of Scotland, more low pressure waiting in the mid-Atlantic. No breakout from that westerly phase, and the low pressure just goes on. Possibly not quite as stormy, not the severe gales, but still low pressure coming in, producing heavy bouts of rain with showers in between. Ending up by the 12th of February, day 10. That was day 8, by the way. We started at day 8 a week's time. This is day 10 with the low pressure just to the southeast of the country, possibly bringing some cooler air from the north or northeast in, but it still really is quite an unsettled pattern even out to day 10. No great changes there. Certainly no sign of any high pressure. The ECMWF agreeing with all of that. This is the day 8 chart, a week's time. Low pressure is over the country, bringing heavy rain and strong winds as well. Going out to day 10, and we just see the low pressure going on. Really, this is the chart for Wednesday, the 12th of February, day 10. Low pressure is still there over the country. We've lost the severe gales, but the low pressure is still dominant enough to produce lots of heavy rain, and there's more low pressure waiting in the mid-Atlantic, no doubt. That would be coming in from the week beyond that into 13th, 14th, 15th February, producing more heavy rain at times. So there's no sign of an end to the unsettled phase. We're in a slightly quieter spell now across southern parts up until around Tuesday night, and then it's going to turn really stormy again midweek, and after that it's just Atlantic system after Atlantic system, very unsettled, lots of heavy rain, gales, severe gales at times as well, with coastal flooding, certainty, and flooding inland from the rivers with the rainfall running into it, into those rivers, looks probable as well. So up to the middle of February anyway, no sign of a break to the deluge. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.